Welcome to the Pop Tower Podcast with your host, the man behind the myth, Peter Dawson, and the Soulful Lordy, James Bullock.
Hey, James.
What's going on, Peter?
I'm back.
I know, and are you black?
No. If I was, I would probably ask you to see if I can see some titties. That's a true thing that happened to me in Japan. I got, solicited by several men, actually from Africa, at least, I think one was Algerian, is Algeria in Africa?
Oh, man.
Oh boy, I started this on the wrong note.
Yeah, geography lesson is not going over well right now.
One was from Ghana, though.
Okay, yeah.
Which always, from Ghana of all places, and he was asking me if I wanted to see some titties.
Wow.
I know, right? That's my taste of my trip to Japan.
Like, you go to Japan, you don't expect to be solicited titties by a black man.
Well, this is the thing. It happened in Kabukicho.
Okay.
Which is where Kamurocho is supposed to be
right.
in Yakuza games.
Oh,
so I'm saying it's now unrealistic to go to Kamurocho and not get solicited by African Americans.
Right.
Well, I should just say Africans because they're not Americans.
Right.
By African men asking if you want to see some.
Oh
titties.
man, that makes so much more sense. Like, we've had black people in the Yakuza games. I know a lot of people have always asked why, and here we go. Peter has uncovered the truth.
Yeah, there's a bunch in that area.
Wow.
And almost all of them wanted me to go see naked women. It's like, I appreciate the invitation, but
right.
I'm going to go have whiskey, thank you very much.
I had my money allocated for certain things, like getting drunk.
Yeah, no, I had to go to
the titties came for free, I'll be happy about that.
Yeah, I went to Golden Guy, the place that's the equivalent of the Champion District in Yakuza 5,
right.
in the Yakuza games, and I just had some nice Japanese whiskey.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah, but that happened. If I don't want to distract because this is not a podcast about my vacation.
I know about your Japanese odyssey.
Yeah, but I thought I would at least mention the pit from the place where the video games happened.
Right, that is awesome.
Yeah. All right. So today we're actually going to talk about video games and movies. In particular, one video game which I actually haven't played, so you're going to take the lead on this, James. I'm just going to give some of the backstory like I usually do.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to talk about a movie we actually only just saw the other day.
Yeah.
Independently. Oh, man. I just love that happened. Okay, so first up we have the latest installment in the Gears of War franchise.
Yes.
Gears 5. They dropped the of War in the name, but I think at this point everyone gets the idea. So it's not the most unusual thing for them to do.
No, not at all.
It's like when they dropped the thes from Fast and Furious.
Yeah, really.
Do we really need the thes?
It's three letters, once in no. Everybody's not calling it the Fast and Furious anymore. Takes too much work. Takes too much effort. And I always thought about it. I was thinking that with them dropping Gears of War, was less of let's just drop of War because everybody calls it Gears, but because they didn't want to get it confused with God of War anymore.
Yeah, that's fair.
Especially just for the initials in itself, because you type in GOW, it's going to come up God of War. It's like, we don't want this to happen. We got to make sure people come to Gears.
That's fair. So once again, we're returning to the world of the Gears, where they have to deal with the Locusts and everything.
Yeah, well, this time it's a little bit different. We still have the Locusts, but it's the oh crap! It's also the S. I forgot that quick. It didn't even matter. It's just like they had redundant a swarm. There we go, swarm.
Yeah, that's not terribly
memorable.
Look, this is the type of stuff that the Gears are known for.
Right.
I mean, because once again, what's interesting though is we're not really following the adventures of Marcus Phoenix or his son Weather Wizard. That's J.D. Phoenix, voiced by Liam McIntyre, who plays Weather Wizard on The Flash. Just to explain that joke.
Yes.
And then he has his good friend Delmont Walker, which I never liked as a name.
Yeah. Of course, they all just call him Del, though.
Yeah. But it's still like, who names their son Delmont Walker? Well, because it's like, you have a very generic last name with a very fancy first name. It's
right.
It's like, come on, man. That's like the opposite of how you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to have a weird surname and just have his first name be like Jack or something.
Right. Because I mean, you think about like a majority of the people in the game have either a very unique first name or something, like if they have like a good last name, they like bring it together. Like JD is just simply James, and they say no, that just sounds too normal. He's got to be hard. He's got to be JD.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the problem, and then you just can't stop thinking about Scrubs. And then I'm just like waiting for Dr. Cox to show up.
And like you said, the same thing like with Marcus Phoenix. Like even though we know his first name is Marcus, everybody calls him Phoenix.
Yeah,
and
which
it's
makes
spelled
sense. That's a cool surname.
F-E-N-I-X, so it's just even better.
I would have appreciated it more if they just tried to give everyone a cool surname. It's like
yeah.
It's like this is Phoenix, this is Bishop, this is let me think here. What's another awesome one? Maddox.
Yeah.
Maddox is always a pretty cool surname. Just go through names like that. Luxby. or Lockley. Maybe Lockley is better than Luxby.
Yeah, Lockley's definitely better.
Anything with an X in it, I always like though.
Yeah.
And of course, just somebody whose last name is just Black.
Yeah.
Hello, Mr. Black.
Black, yes.
Yeah. All right, we've been riffing on this long enough, but actually, so here's the thing I kind of like about this game, just from the backstory premise, is the fact that the focus character is actually Kate Diaz, which is like a brand new character, and like the game explores her origins, and like this is kind of a neat idea because the Gears games were never that well known for having a good plot.
No.
And I mean, I remember being.
It is a stereotypical action adventure movie.
I remember being incredibly bored with the death of Dom in Gears of War 3.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Because everyone tells me how emotional it is, and I just keep watching. I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, I granted I don't have the investment in Dom that others do, but I followed his story through the other games, and I just didn't care. I thought it was a really lame death.
No. I mean, to me, it was always been, I want to blow up stuff. How do we get to this point?
Yeah.
It's just an ever-increasing moment of just craziness of how do we blow up these creatures that are trying to kill us.
Yeah, it's pretty unsatisfying. But in this case, yeah, we got the introduction of Kate, and we have a lot of interesting elements like they're actually talking about trying to decommission the Hammer of Dawn too.
Yeah,
like
that's
satellite
very
weapon.
early in the game where they're trying to explain exactly why we do not want to use the Hammer of Dawn anymore, and it becomes almost a last resort, and it actually plays a big role in like the end of the first act, and how it shapes and one of the major characters, and how they progress in terms of friendship and companionship and actually working together to try to figure out how they could take over the swarm. And to me, that was like the most emotional moment of the entire story, and that was in the first act.
Yeah, it's just like it's kind of the first thing to think about these games is like they do have some good ideas in there. Like there's an interesting, like especially the fact that we're post-war, because this is always the interesting thing with a franchise that had like a generic war going on for a while. Like another example I would have is Wing Commander, because the first 3 games are all about the war with the Kilrathi, the Tiger people.
Right.
Which, by the way, is a fun enemy. I just want to say, tigers and spaceships, come on. And then the 4th game is post-war Kilrathi, who are kind of your allies, which is weird. And then you're dealing with that when you're dealing with new enemies, too. And it's just like, oh, man, post-war. So, I always appreciated that about the Gears game, that they're... Granted, this new threat isn't terribly interesting, but, you know.
No, I mean, it's pretty much like a dumbed-down version of the Locusts without a really good, prominent figurehead in terms of, like, who you want to take down. You actually find out who it is very late in the story. But leading up to that, it just feels like, hey, you're just fighting random encounters of swarms and enemies that you've seen before in other games.
Yeah. I don't even know what else to say.
No, I mean, and pretty much like the only thing to say else about the story in terms of gameplay is the fact that they've added more of a kind of like a semi-open world where you can take on a few side missions here and there. They're really not that prominent. They really just either go here, kill a bunch of people, and walk away. It's really nothing profound or monumental or really adds that much to the story. And the way it's presented is very much kind of God of War 2018, where you had this almost semi-open world where you just have these one point here and there of optional story side missions, and usually once you go to the place, and that's one thing. I have to warn everyone too. If you don't do the side missions when they warn you you're about to leave this place, you can't go back unless you do chapter select and have to start all over again. It's not like we have an open world ending where you could go back and play through the side missions. You have to do them while you're in that specific area. Like one part you're in a ice area, the next part you're in more of a desert area. So once you leave those areas, you're out. You cannot go back. But
right.
Other than that, there's really not that much different between this in terms of the story presentation than any other games. And the story still lasts a good amount of time, but it's a really quick play too. It's about 8 to 10 hours at the most. So it's a good sit down, you can play for a couple of days and get it through and just move on to the multiplayer.
That's fair. Yeah, and I was given to understand the multiplayer is pretty good.
Yeah, multiplayer is actually very fun. They've added a couple of not only PvP but also PvAI modes. One is called, for the PvAI mode, is Escape, where you have to go through this pretty much labyrinth of areas to dispose of enemies, get from point A to point B to point C as quickly as possible before the area becomes inhabited with just poisonous gas. And you pretty much start with no weapons, and as you fight your way, you pick up more and more weapons. And pretty much it's the time attack kind of mode that's really fun. Of course, horde mode's back, so you can team up with people and try to take on hordes upon hordes of enemies. When it comes to multiplayer, the usual stuff is here. You have team deathmatch, and you have a new mode that's personally my favorite out of all of them. It's Guardian mode. It is a 5-on-5 multiplayer game where one character on each team is the leader. And if that leader gets killed, you can no longer respawn. So then it becomes a literal last man standing. So as long as you keep your leader alive, you can respawn continuously. But once that leader dies, it becomes, hey, you got to pick off each person, and then whoever picks off that person is the winner of the round. And that's really like a great twist to me, because it changes the complete dynamic of an entire like team deathmatch scenario. Instead of just everybody going out trying to kill each other, now you're actually trying to be a little bit more defensive, strategic, trying to keep your leader as safe as possible, but you can't have them sitting around and just waiting, because the game will identify if you're just squatting. If you're just sitting around in one spot for too long, the game will actually identify that you're in this one area. So you have to like keep your leader moving while also protecting them. And if you fail, it's going to be game over very quickly. So I really do enjoy Guardian mode. It was, to me, I was shocked because I'm not the best. I've said this many times before when it comes to third-person shooters. But that was like one of the most I really wanted to dedicate some time to. Like, that was a really good innovation. In terms of like connectivity, it's hit and miss. A majority of the time, you get into a game, you wait a little bit, get there, you can play through the game. The only issue I really have with connectivity is when you get into a game and it starts loading, when it gets to like the part where they tell you to, the map is loading up. And then all of a sudden it'll go to the reward screen and say, just like the game is over. It was a draw. So that issue is still prominent for some reason, even though after updates and everything, that's, typical of this generation. Other than that, not really bad. Like, multiplayer is solid. I think the story in the single player is pretty solid. And we were talking about it before we started recording. I think one of the things that Gears 5 is getting so much praise for is because so many people dislike Gears 4.
Yeah, Gears 4 is infamously bad.
Right! Like, with Judgment and Gears 4, like, those are the two that people just hate. And I think this being kind of a return to form is not that exemplary, is not any really revolutionary compared to, say, 1 or 2. But it's just good enough as compared to 1 and 2 that people are giving it that type of praise. I'm playing it on, I got Game Pass right now, which Game Pass Ultimate, of course, because they had to change that around. And to me, that's the way to go.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't necessarily say that it's one of those things that I would say, hey, go spend $60 on, because it's so much like everything else. But if you have Game Pass, you have the subscription, you can just download and start playing it. But even if you want a physical copy, you could spend worse. on definitely a worse game than this, especially when it comes to third-person shooters, or even a worse Gears game than this.
Oh, absolutely. You're talking about Gears 4 again, aren't you?
Maybe.
I remember being so disappointed with that game for multiple reasons, because I wasn't, and even the characters were just like, well, JD wasn't that interested in that one.
No,
I think they
learned the lesson with this one. I think they learned the lesson in the way they portrayed JD in this one. They really, because he was just, oh my goodness, I wanted to just shoot him right then and there.
Yeah, well, and also, like, what's her nuts? The one with the beanie.
Oh, yeah.
She really felt out of place in that one. I'm just like, no, from what I've seen so far, this one looks a lot better.
No, it really is, but like I said, it's on par, to me, with 1 and 2.
That's good.
Yeah, it is.
Alright, well, I think on that note, we can jump into the other thing. The thing I have actually seen and can talk more about. So, back in 2017, there was a little movie called It, which has been retroactively renamed It Chapter 1.
Yes.
Which is an adaptation of Stephen King's pretty popular novel, It, which was also the basis for a fairly popular miniseries,
yes.
I think in 1990?
Yeah, it was in the early 90s. I know that for a fact. Like, I remember watching that and just being amazed at the time.
Oh, I still love that one.
Oh, I do too. Like, anytime. I remember even back, like, getting older, and I would find it coming on during, like, a weekend, and I was like, oh, man, I'm sitting down and watching this, because I thoroughly enjoy.
It's one of the many reasons I love Tim Curry.
Oh, yeah.
But, so It Chapter 2, it's a sequel to the 2017 movie. It makes it a lot, it's interesting, because they did Chapter 1 so well as its own thing, and then we get this, and it's like, yeah, okay, it makes sense to do the follow-up. And so it's interesting, because, like, it's a sequel that was naturally in the source material as half the book. More or less. I think it was actually... I think the adult stuff actually took up a good chunk of the book.
It really did, actually. Like the
I don't think it's quite 50-50. I'm trying to remember which has
more.
No,
because when they came to in terms of the adult stuff, they still mixed in some of the stuff from adolescence.
Right.
And the fact is that they had to introduce the adults a lot earlier in the book to kind of emphasize the growing fear in the kids that led to them being adults.
Right. Yeah. Anyway. So the point is, in this case, in the town of Derry, which is, by the way, one of the most awkward things about the movie, because people just always sound silly when they say Derry out loud.
Right.
I have to go back to Derry.
Derry.
So you're giving up goat's milk? Like, I keep thinking about stuff like that. Like, I appreciate that it's probably, an authentic name for a town, but it's just one of those names. It's like anytime somebody says it dramatically, I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah, and like I always felt like we missed out on this being a movie based on farming. I
know, or just something. Like Pennywise is secretly an evil cow.
Right. Like he used to be a farmer, and things just didn't go well for him.
I used to be a dairy farmer. Now I float down here.
Why didn't they bring me rain then? I needed rain then.
Yeah. So in this case, the loser club from the original movie is mostly back, with a dramatic twist. Because one of them, I think I can give this away because it's also in the miniseries.
Yeah, it's all over. We know this one.
Yeah, one of them ends up committing suicide.
Right.
And that's kind of a dramatic moment that ultimately helps bring the gang back together in a way.
Yeah, that's one of those things that hate to already compare, the miniseries to the movie, but I thought they did a lot better in the movie, and just adding to that emotional connection where he commits suicide, and he explains why to each person. He sends a letter to each person, explains why, and it's to a certain extent a noble cause as to why he did it.
Yeah, like it's still kind of iffy if you really think about the implications of it.
Right.
But it's better than how it happened in the movie. Or in miniseries.
In the miniseries, yeah.
Sorry about that. I just decided to swallow a frog.
I thought Pennywise got you.
Yep. So we have a really interesting adult cast, because among the people we have Jessica Chastain, we have Professor X, James McAvoy, we have Barry Bill Hader, And then we have Mr. Old Spice Isaiah Mustafa.
Yes.
And then I don't remember what Jay Ryan's from.
Yeah. Actually, let me look.
Or James Ransom either, come to think of it.
Yeah, I remember seeing him, but I couldn't remember exactly where he was from.
Yeah. And for the record, Isaiah Mustafa's actually a pretty good actor, too.
Oh, yeah, very much so.
But, like, he keeps getting saddled with, like, lame roles, so I was kind of glad to see him alongside friggin' McAvoy and Hader and everything. I also love that Hader, in particular, is playing the adult Finn Wolfhard, so it's like, nice job, kid. You actually turned out pretty good. Yeah. So the basic idea is they go back to Derry and they find out they still haven't gotten rid of Pennywise like they thought they did 27 years ago. And then more revelations about the history of the town and like what's the term they use for that? Is it Deadlights?
Oh yeah, the Deadlights. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that comes up.
Yeah, that comes a lot more in this one than they did in the first one, which I understand the fact that they kind of had this situation where they did more research and they found out what Pennywise was about a little bit more than they could back when they were younger. But, yeah, I thought that they did the Deadlights just being a part of Derry, just being kind of like just a wandering thing, a little bit more profoundly in this one than they did in the first one. I thought it worked a lot better.
Mm-hmm. And then there's, they also, they integrate the whole Native American tribe thing.
Yeah.
Man, what, freaking Stephen King, he loves to do that in his work.
He really does. Burials, sacred burial grounds in Native American tribes. Like one and one and the same when it comes to him.
I still remember one of the awkward ones, because remember the Tommy Knockers miniseries?
Yeah!
That one came off really awkward.
Yeah!
I will not repeat what was said in that one.
No, I will not.
That one came off a little racist. This one not so much. Like, it's still probably
it's still a little stereotypical, but
but
it's at least like, and to a certain extent, as stereotypical as it is, it's almost like we're still honoring the idea of it. It's not like it's an insult.
Because they're also the heroes, at least.
Right.
In a sense, so it's like, okay, we're doing this racially stereotypical thing, but at least we're having it for
We're trying to do it in a positive light, you know.
Yeah.
And then you also kind of like...
you know what it reminded me of?
What?
When I was sitting there watching that, of all things, it reminded me of Paranormal Activity 2.
Oh!
Where it's like, you know, because what was it? It was the Latina housekeeper just immediately starts doing, like, weird demon stuff.
Right!
But she's right.
But she knows, like, she understands this. It's a part of the culture.
It's like, this is not a good stereotype. At the same time, at least they're on the side of good.
Right.
And, you know, again, at least it was true in the book, but I mean, you know, I don't know what they would have done instead.
Yeah,
Nothing good would have come from it, I'm sure.
Yeah, like I said, I understand, too, the source material that they pulled it from, too.
Yeah.
But even though we could get hung up on it, the fact is that, like you said, they did it for good. So at least...
Yeah.
At least it made some... And I mean, it could have made even more... It could have been even more wild if one of the things that they did cut out, including in the miniseries, was like connected to the tribe's ceremony where this intergalactic turtle shows up.
Well, what can you do?
Yeah.
Look, turtle power.
Yeah, exactly. Turtles always beat up clowns.
But you know, just going to the movie in general, I liked it.
Yeah.
But I made a mistake.
What
I watched Chapter 1 right before I went to go see it.
Oh, yeah. You pulled my Dark Phoenix. You pulled a Dark Phoenix here. I read Dark Phoenix before I saw it.
Well, no, that was way worse. So yeah, because you remember in the comics where Jean Grey got gaslit.
Yeah.
Oh man, that still pisses me off. The honest trailers just dropped for that earlier this week.
Oh really?
And I've kind of gotten away from honest trailers because I've like they've been I don't know they felt in general like they've been phoning it in lately.
Yeah.
But like I watched that one and I was like, yeah, that about sums it up.
Yeah.
Oh look, they're taking out Quicksilver again, so he won't be relevant to the plot.
Right.
And instantly win. No, yeah, but Like, yeah, Chapter 1 was definitely better than Chapter 2, but I still really like Chapter 2, I think.
No, I really did enjoy Chapter 2. I think one of the biggest issues that I had with it, besides the length, I think they could have shaved off.
It meandered way too much.
That second act was rough.
Yeah.
That second
How
act,
long was this movie?
Oh,
it was almost 3 hours, that's why.
Yeah, that second act was a little rough. That was one of the ones they could have shaved down.
This could have been 2 hours.
Yeah, really, that's all it needed.
Well, no, that's not all it needed. I got 2 other critiques, but let me put it this way.
Okay.
That's probably the biggest critique I have.
Okay.
But I got a couple of more.
Okay, well, I'm going to see if yours line up with mine in this sense. One of my biggest issues with the movie was Pennywise. Not the performance, I thought was really good.
Yeah.
But for me, it felt like Pennywise was just... In the first movie, it felt like he was toying with the kids in an effort to lure them to their deaths.
Yeah.
This time, it felt like, oh, you're back, you're grown, I'm going to torture you, but it's not really going to mean anything. If you want to fight me, or you want to potentially die because of me, you have to come to me. I'm not going to come to you. And
yeah.
I understand that gesture nature, but in the first movie you felt like at any time, if he wanted to, he could kill them. This time it was like, hey, I'm just goofing off now. If you want to come and see me, you want to die, you can. But if you don't, I'm going to just torture you while you're here.
Yeah. Well, because, this is the thing I think the miniseries did well, because despite his wacky antics, he felt like a threat.
Right.
Even in the adult segments.
Right, exactly.
Whereas in this case, he feels like less of a threat. Like, he's just flat out not as scary.
No, not at all.
And it's kind of, I appreciate that, adults dealing with him, it's going to happen, but, it felt like they did themselves in a bit with that.
Right, yeah, that was the biggest thing. Like, even as adults, just the fact he didn't feel like there was, a physical threat from him, it took away that fear.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, that to me hurt the movie more than anything, because I didn't feel like Pennywise was a threat to them in the form that he was when they were kids. And they knew they had to be scared of him because they seen just how terrible and dangerous he could be. So there wasn't any reason for them, even as adults, not to be fearful of the potential danger that he could produce that could result in their deaths.
Yeah.
I mean, even their best friend knew. Even one of their best friends knew that he was too weak to fight Pennywise, even as an adult, and off themselves. Seriously.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree.
Yeah.
My other critique. So, very good actors. I think Bill Hader's performance in particular is very standout. McAvoy's pretty good too, and Chastain's pretty solid.
McAvoy did very well too.
Yeah. I'm not most of the performances I would say in general. I can't even think of anyone I didn't particularly dislike.
Right. I think it was more of just the way they were positioned in the plot and how much some of them had to work with compared to others.
Yeah, Mustafa did fine too.
Exactly. Yeah.
He hailed his own, and I think everyone in particular is praising Hader, but I think McAvoy also deserves it, and Chastain to a degree, absolutely. I don't think hers was the strongest, but she did fine.
Yeah. I think she was
critique,
maybe one of the weaker examples.
Yeah, my critique is, I don't think they had very good chemistry.
And that was a big thing too. That was actually something I thought about too. Mm-hmm. When I understood the idea, because if you look at the miniseries, that was one thing I thought they would do that was a little bit better that they didn't do in the movie, was the fact that them going away from Derry, they were able to kind of lose that memory. It was almost like you were in this haze when you're in Derry, and once you get away from it, it starts to go away. Whereas with this, they kind of explain, well, we've repressed the memories and all that kind of stuff. That's why we don't remember exactly what. But it was almost like the chemistry grew and grew in the miniseries because of them being back in Derry and having their thoughts and the connections and the relationships and what they went through coming back to them by being in Derry. Whereas with this, it wasn't that same thing. And I just felt that the chemistry would have made sense of them not having that necessary connection if they went with that kind of, with the way they did with the miniseries. But also in turn, I was saying that, hey, they're adults, they've been disconnected for a while, they haven't been in contact. It's understandable that they don't feel as close as they did when they were kids. But still, as it got further in the movie, it still didn't feel like the connection was there. It's weird. I don't know. I don't know if it's just because of that we're kind of like angry adults trying to overcome this relic of our past, but it just did not feel as tight as a unit with the adults as it did with the kids.
Yeah, no, that's potentially part of it. Yeah, I'm just trying to think now about the chemistry, and I'm just like, yeah, it's just the movie just didn't click as well as part one did, but I still liked it quite a bit.
No, that's the thing. I did enjoy it. I think the biggest issue, and this might be one of those situations where hype came in, even though, like I said, it does have very obvious flaws, but the fact is that Chapter 1 was so good.
Yep.
And you knew pretty much everyone that was involved in Chapter 1 was involved in Chapter 2. You held it to that same standard.
Yeah, probably.
And then, even from that perspective, you also have to look at the source material. Everyone pretty much agrees a majority of the source material, when it comes to the adult section, is a lot weaker than what it was when they were kids. Mm-hmm. So we kind of got that weaker half of the story and the more grandiose version with Chapter 2.
Yeah, that's kind of a problem.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to... Sorry?
No, like you said, it's not a bad movie at all. To me, it's not even one of those movies I'm going to look at back and say at the end of the year, wow, that was so greatly disappointing. But in comparison to the first one, like you say, you watched Chapter 1, and you definitely see the weaknesses a lot more profoundly in Chapter 2 than you did in Chapter 1.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, it was a mistake to watch it. I should have just had my memories. I should have just had my memories, right?
Yeah.
I shouldn't have rewatched it. Because that was the mistake.
Oh, that was a mistake to watch it.
Well, to watch it when I did.
Yeah. Oh, man. No, but, like I say, really good performances. I just wish it wasn't as long. I hate to think, like, what would be a director's cut. Like, how much did they leave on the cutting room floor?
He takes more out.
He literally had to make a cut on this one.
Yeah, that'd be great. Well, I think that's gonna do for this week.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that short. I think we're still at like 40 minutes or something.
Oh no. We rambled on here. Oh, man. We just
said the two things though, because I didn't. I still have to.
And I mean,
refocus after my trip.
And not only that, but I mean, in terms of television shows, there's not that many that we've. I mean, it's not that season yet, and a few of the shows that we've seen, they're good. I think for year-end wrap-up kind of talks than full-blown episodes.
Oh, by the way, okay, here, secret bonus review.
Okay.
To add to the end of the episode. So while I was in Japan, one of the things I played was Dragon Ball Heroes.
Wow, okay.
Super Dragon Ball Heroes.
Right.
Want to know my review?
Yeah.
I don't know what I was doing. But I won.
But you won? Oh, man.
Yeah, no, like, some stuff in Japan, it was like, I could muddle through, I can understand. Man, this one, there was so much stuff, I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And it's like, and then at one point, it's like, alright, place down any of the cards you have. Hey, loser, you don't have any cards. Here, take a pity card. And it just gave me a card. So I put that down. And then I had the most unrealistic Dragon Ball fight known to man because, yeah, Yamcha can totally beat Goku. Bear in mind, it was regular power Yamcha versus regular power Goku.
Was this little kid Goku? Was this Dragon Ball Goku?
No, this is adult Goku. It was like a weird version of the Saiyan Saga because it was the Saiyan Saga heroes minus Goku, but like even like Piccolo was in there taking on and like Kid Gohan, and they're taking on just powered up Goku, and then I could also use my card which was Super Saiyan Vegeta, so I brought him in, and so it ended up being an absolute curb stomp. But there's one point where I had Yamcha fighting Goku toe to toe, and I'm like, this is unrealistic. No. Like the one where Chaozu was sniping him, I'm like, you know what, that could happen.
Yeah, that actually does make sense.
Yeah. The sniping being effective, that's another matter.
Man.
But,
I say,
no.
These kids just nowadays do not know how effective Chaozu was back in the day.
Yeah. But I did that, I got a card, and it was only 100 yen.
Oh, man.
Yep. The gacha machines were more expensive, and I felt like I got more ripped off on those. Man. That was great.
That is too good.
All right, well, until next time, folks. Just always remember, if the robot delivers you a Coke, give him a pat on the head.
Aww.